Most people grow up not having any conversations about it. It's like there's this, I don't know, stigma, shame around it. My father never discussed it and just said, never have any credit card debt. You never want to, never buy anything. When I was growing up, it's called layaway. Never buy anything on layaway. Don't have any credit cards, but never really an understanding about money. So to start that conversation early, and what I really think is, God knows this should be taught in schools. It should be taught in schools. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. The state of Maine bought the book for every elementary school
Yes.
student, and I thought, about 13,000 books. I thought it was such a genius idea, and I applaud them for doing that because I do think it's a powerful tool in the hands of a young person, and it is something that is really life-changing once you get rooted in both the comfort of the conversation and the actual subject.
Because a lot of kids, as we're going to find out today, people who never had a conversation about money. We have Gen Zers zooming in with questions for Mellody. Kayla is joining us from California. I hear you've been, nodding along with this conversation. Tell us what's going on with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I have been, everything that Mellody is saying and everything that, just is being said, I'm just like, yep, definitely something that I agree with or I'm experiencing right now.
What's your situation? Tell us what's happening.
Well, my situation kind of all started when I graduated nursing school in the height of the pandemic in 2020. And that was already a struggle in itself. But I think I kind of dug myself deeper into that hole with the use of credit cards because it was difficult to start off with no job, with no nursing job, trying to find a position. And that kind of just spiraled into maxing out those credit cards and to the point of maxing out those credit cards to total of $20K, not including the student loans that I have from nursing school. But I think I just hit that peak of my money situation when it came to the point that I wasn't able to pay for even just like a $5 meal, like a fast food meal. And I was even utilizing those buy now, pay laters, which is what layaways are called now. I was utilizing those for groceries. So I knew I had to change something. And so I kind of held myself
accountable. You knew this when you couldn't pay for lunch. You knew this when you couldn't pay for lunch.
Yeah, it was literally just a lunch that I had that I wanted to get for myself for during work. I wasn't able to do it. And I cried that day. I knew when I cried for that meal, I knew that was my breaking point. And so...
Are you doing the thing, have you been doing, Kayla, the thing that Mellody just said don't do, and that is making the minimum payment on your cards? Just the minimum payments?
Yes, since 2020, I've accumulated about 5 credit cards. And since then, I've been just doing the minimums. And I just recently actually calculated all of the interest that I was paying over these 5 years. And yeah.
What was the number?
I can't remember on the top of my head, but combination of everything was 5,000 plus.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that really lit a fire in me.
Isn't that interesting? Because most people, that's why I was nodding too, everything Mellody said, because you don't think about it. I remember when I first came out of college and got my first credit card, I was so excited. And you think only 20% minimum, only 15% minimum payment. And you think, oh, well, that's not so much. And then you get 3 or 4 credit cards. And before you know it, you have so much debt, you don't see how you're going to get yourself out of it.
Yeah, it just ended up being a whole snowball effect of using all of the credit cards. And I think putting it all on paper in front of me and seeing all the numbers in front of me, I think that's when it clicked and put me back into reality of we need to do something about this.
So what's your question for Mellody?
So my question is, with me now paying off these credit cards, I have paid $5K out of the 20 so far. It is also very difficult to maintain just the lifestyle. And if there's any emergencies that happen, I don't know if I'll have the money, and I have about $5K that I've already paid off from one of the credit cards. I don't want to result back to that. So my question is, how can I continue to have this progress of paying my credit cards off, but also have a good cushion with an emergency fund, doing this all at the same time?
Okay, well, I think you're going to have to prioritize. I like that you have really gotten clear about your situation. And I like that you put the bills in front of you. One of the disadvantages that to the great advantage you all have as being digital natives is that because you are digital, you can avoid a lot of the reality by not, just having the piece of paper in front of you and checking. And you tend to pay digitally. You tend to, go through that life that way. So the first thing I would say that I would want you to do is I would want you to pay off the most expensive debt first. There's a saying that it's very expensive to be poor. The less money you have, the higher debt, the higher interest rates you might be paying. So get rid of the ones that are the highest interest rates first, because trying to save against those interest rates gets very hard. It's like having a bucket with a hole in it. Something's leaking out, even though you're filling the bucket with money. So you want to get rid of those high interest rate credit cards first and really be deliberate about it. So you maybe have paid $5,000 so far. You might say, I'm going to get rid of this one totally first and still pay these minimums. Does that make sense? Look at each by the interest rate they're charging you and be very clear about that. And you have to be extremely disciplined about not restarting. So once you clear one of those cards, you're going to have to be ruthless about it, that you don't start again because you see that zero balance that might be sitting there. The second thing that I think is really important is a little bit of savings can go a long way and become very, very addictive. So I'm going to ask you to do something that is going to seem so small, but every dollar does count. Like the show The Bear, they say every second counts. This is every dollar counts.
Okay.
Start by saving 50 cents a day for 2 months. Literally 50 cents. You can have a jar of change, put 50 cents a day in that jar. After 2 months, I want it to be $1. I know this seems like so, Mellody, what are you asking me to do? After 2 months, I want it to be $3.
Okay.
And in the last 4 months, I want you to try to save $5 a day. Now, $5 a day, we're talking about $35 a week. We're talking about $140 a month. That gets hard. But in those early days, you start to condition yourself around saving.
You've trained yourself.
It's not, and this becomes a way of life,
Mellody.
not a diet. It's very, very important. It just starts to be a way of life, and saving becomes addictive. So everyone that I've had do this, they see a little money, they get excited. They start to see more money, they get more excited. So that
I love this. This is so much, but everybody always say save 10% of your salary.
It's too
That's
hard.
So hard.
It's
That's
too
so
hard. 50 cents, $1, $2, $3, $5. At the end of that year, you have almost $1,000. And that's a little cushion. And you didn't start by saying, I got to save $1,000, which when you're, living paycheck to paycheck, that seems impossible. But if I start you at 50 cents, I promise you can get there. The other thing I'd like to ask you to do for 1 month period,
We
30
love
days,
this, don't we, guys?
30 days is just use cash for 1 month.
Okay.
You cannot use anything else. This is why it's important. If I ask most people, how much money do you have in your wallet? People can't even tell me. But you'd know if you only had cash. And so you only use cash, which actually changes how much you spend, believe it or not. When we don't see and have to take the bills out, we spend more money. So we spend about 18% more on plastic, debit or credit, because the scarcity isn't there, where you literally have no more bills in your wallet. You've got to go to an ATM and get more money. Cash for 1 month, it is going to shift how you think about what you buy.
Starting today.
1 month.
Today. Okay, that's on the to-do list now.
But that'll get you a little bit of an emergency fund, but I want to prioritize that debt first.